KFI AM 640. You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly. On demand on the iHeartRadio app.
Is Netflix down, Foosh? You were having some buffering issues there a second ago.
Buffered when Tyson arrived, but now it seems like it's going good.
Now it's working.
Doing the intros, the rules, it's going to go.
It's
like
it's
starting.
bad?
It's not out.
Oh, it's starting, yeah. Okay, well, they just rang the bell because I'm just watching Antonio Brown's Twitter feed where he's just kind of showing whatever's on the screen, yeah. So I was watching this as they came out, and we made mention that Jake Paul came out in a hoopty, this souped-up, specialized, customized Chevy Silverado with the top cut off. And then Tyson came out by himself. There's not even a posse around him. He just walked out. Just time to get to business. Then they got on the stage, and I don't know about you, but Tyson looks old.
I hate it too.
I'm not talking about the way he's moving, but I mean, yeah.
That kind of worried me too, and I saw him.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the gray beard. As he's standing there, his body looks like a 58-year-old's body. Probably the best shaped 58-year-old you're going to see, to be clear. But I mean, you're not seeing that giant muscle definition that you remember from Tyson
from before. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. So anyway, Tyson kind of went after Paul. It looks like to open the fight, and then now they've been doing a little bit of hugging and dancing around the ring. I was looking at the odds, and it looks like the odds maker, I guess the bettors, are thinking that we're probably going to see this go a few rounds. It's only 2-minute rounds, and the odds are that it's going to end in a decision. Most bettors are thinking it's going to be a decision for Paul. If it is a knockout for Paul, it's probably going to come around the 5th round. They do not anticipate a knockout for either one of these guys earlier than that. And actually, as the rounds go on a little bit longer, the longer the fight goes on, the more the odds drop for Tyson. So we'll see how it shapes up anyway. So it is going on, and it sounds like Netflix is working for Foosh anyway. Mark, is your phone working yet, or are you still watching like 3 fights ago?
No, I lost it. There's a problem with the streaming now.
Oh, is it? Okay, well, maybe it's down. I got to tell you that the Twitter feed that I was watching, and again, it's Antonio Brown's Twitter feed that he's got up here. It's up at 4.5 million viewers. That's gone up by over 1 million viewers in the last few minutes. First round is over. Nothing really happened. So anyway, keeping an eye on that and watching what's going on because that's a major event. People are going to be talking about this all weekend. Certainly going to be talking about the trouble that Netflix had, and no doubt about it. If you're listening to the show on Sunday, we'll be mentioning the Netflix problems as we do our No Business Like Show Business segment. All right, that said, happened across an article, I think it was this morning, I was reading the New York Times because I'm an elitist, and it says that 3/4 of U.S. adults are now overweight or obese. A new paper reveals the dramatic rise of obesity rates nationwide since 1990. Now, I'm old enough to remember 1990. That was when Tyson was svelte. And in 1990, about 50% of the country was overweight and obese. And I recall when these stats came out, maybe not necessarily in 1990 in particular, but certainly in the 90s, we talked about that. There were a few stats from those days that I remember distinctly. One, obesity rates were, overweight and obesity rates were up over 50%. And I also remember the divorce rate in the 80s was the highest. It was over 50%. Recall that? And we still say half of all marriages end in divorce. And then people say, well, that doesn't mean a half of all people because some people get divorced more than once. Okay, whatever. But there are just a couple of things that I recall from those days. So now that numbers continue to climb. It was already astonishing when it hit 50% of people being overweight and obese. And if you take a look at some of those old, I love watching the History Channel because I'm, again, old. And when I take a look at, for instance, the troops training videos on the History Channel when they show the old documentaries and things, it's not just the troops that were svelte. Like everybody was in good shape. You didn't have obesity, certainly not at the rate that we have it now. I mean, obviously there were fat people in the 40s, but not very many. A lot of people were just very thin. It was just normal. So what has changed? What's going on now that we're seeing obesity and overweight rates climbing so much? And I really, really think that there's something to what RFK has been saying about processed foods. I think there's something to it, which could cost him his job because if he hasn't noticed, his boss likes his Mickey D's, but that's not good for you. I'll talk about the processed foods here in a few minutes because I have some interesting numbers on that. But I was also in conjunction with the story about people being overweight and obese. I have struggled with weight my whole life, and I'm 6'3.5", and I was at 328 pounds to start the year, and something had to change. So I went on a diet, and I worked really hard on this diet, and it was a pretty restrictive diet, and it was no fun. But what I've known, because I yo-yo, I go up and down and up and down. I've been down below in my adult life. I've been up over 300 pounds one other time. After that, I had at one point dropped below 200 pounds. And so dramatic changes, and that's not really great for my health either. But I knew I could do it, so I went on this restrictive diet. And I also know that after you're on it for a few weeks, you start to adjust. And you start to kind of get used to the new foods, the new serving sizes, that kind of thing. Doesn't mean the cravings are gone. It just means it's a little more manageable. But it's pretty torturous to start with, for sure. About 3.5 months ago, I got down to 240 pounds. And so I lost, I lost like 80 pounds in about 7 or 8 months.
That's a whole person.
A small person, yeah. Probably like a sorority chick. So I did that, and I was happy, but I would still like to lose a little bit more. So at that point, I decided I was going to get a little assist. I was going to put some training wheels on this bicycle, and so I got onto the Ozempic program. And the way Ozempic works is they start you at a low dose because of the side effects. They want to make sure that you can handle the Ozempic. So you start at a low dose, and you do that 1 shot a week for 4 weeks, and then they double that dose. 1 shot a week, 4 weeks, and then they double that dose. 1 shot a week, 4 weeks, and then it's not a double the next time, but it's almost double, and that's where I am right now. And the side effects have been the first time I take the shot, the first week after I increase the dosage, I feel a little bit nauseous the day after, which of course helps me not want to eat anymore. It has not been a wonder drug for me thus far, but now that I'm at the second highest dosage, I'll go up a little bit more here in another 2 weeks. Now that I'm at the second highest dosage, I definitely am not thinking about food very often. And that is a big difference because most of the time my brain wants food. And I also have this issue where when I eat food, I don't stop. And not when I'm on a diet, but just generally speaking. When I eat food, I don't stop until I am packed full, until my stomach hurts.
What have you had to cut out that you miss the most?
Oh, that's a good question. Because I started doing the Ozempic and I allowed myself some quote-unquote cheat foods. So I've been eating a lot of chicken while I started doing the Ozempic, and then I allowed myself to have some like frozen breaded chicken. So I like that. And I also found that some of the things I like, I've sort of replaced. I will also cheat, and I will have a breakfast burrito, which I love breakfast burritos. That's one of those weird things that I just have this craving for breakfast burritos. I love it so much.
Is that a cheat food? Are those bad for you?
It's not the worst thing you can cheat with, right? Because it's high protein, and it does have carbs because of the tortillas, and there's cheese in it too. But it's not the worst cheat food that you can have. What is it that I really... Oh, pasta. That's what I miss.
Ah, of course.
Yeah, I love pasta. Man, do I love pasta. And so I haven't been able to have any of that. But the reason I bring this up, and I'm telling you the story so that if you haven't experienced this, you know what it's like, is that I'm reading a story about people who are complaining that when they go off of Ozempic, they gain weight. And I was thinking about what would cause someone to write a story like this, and I thought, it's because Ozempic is working for so many people that you have to take the contrarian viewpoint to get the clicks. It's about stirring the pot so that people will read your stuff. So that people that are concerned about a new drug on the market or the overwhelming success or the chatter about the drug can poo-poo it. Because that's the society we live in. And I get it. I do. Because I'm the same way when it comes to somebody talking too much about a sports figure. I go, okay, enough about Patrick Mahomes. I get it. You think he's great. And so all of a sudden I'm watching and I'm hoping he throws an interception. I did the same thing with Tom Brady. I hope Tom Brady loses this Super Bowl because I'm tired of hearing about Tom Brady, right? So imagine that, you hear about Ozempic every turn, and then you've got the commercials, Ozempic, and you go, I just want this thing to fail so that I don't have to hear this stuff anymore. You're almost rooting against it. It's the Schadenfreude in us all. But then I got to thinking more and more about how Ozempic is really an incredible drug and really terrible for all of society. And we'll tell you why that is. Why Ozempic is doing wonders for individuals and is very bad for America. Fat America.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
What's going on with the fight here, Foosh? Is it streaming? Is it a good fight? Is it a bad fight? What's happening?
It's working. In the third round, Paul got some real hard hits in, and that's when you kind of started to see Tyson's age showing, because he stumbled pretty quick.
Yeah.
But this last round that just happened, he got a couple of good ones. I'm almost thinking at this point it might end up being a tie, because they're both getting, each round they kind of switch off on the hits.
Just throwing a draw.
Yeah,
just
we'll
pulling
see.
a draw.
I mean, that would be really funny, because I think it would affect Paul's ego more than Tyson, since he's already a champ and a legend.
Well, yeah, I mean, Tyson is considered the underdog here, right?
Apparently, yeah.
I would just love to see. I still want to see Tyson just maul him.
Yeah, and I think that's what he's counting on. I think what everyone thought. He's just trying to get 1-2 solid ones in the chin, and it's over. But but Paul is kind of quick because he is younger, which that's an advantage.
Well, he's moving around more.
Yeah, he's definitely bouncing around. He's running around.
Paul is or Tyson is?
Paul is, but Paul also looks absolutely exhausted,
winded. Yeah. Maybe Tyson's playing a little rope-a-dope here. Maybe that's part of his strategy. Maybe he's taking a page out of Ali's book.
I think he's playing 58 years old.
Oh yeah, you think so? Like maybe he's just
because like we both said when the round first started, you could really see his age, and it's kind of like you can kind of see it right now. Ooh,
just kind of chasing him around the ring a little bit.
But he's
okay.
We'll see.
All right. Well, I'm really hoping to see that flurry. I think we just want to see a flurry of vintage Mike Tyson, and if that happens, it's over. But so far, we haven't seen that. Okay, and the rounds are only 2 minutes each, so that was part of the deal because Tyson said he had to get home and watch Wheel of Fortune in between rounds, so they couldn't last very long. So that's what's going on. That was a low blow. Where was I here? Oh yeah, I was talking about the obesity rates because saw a story in the New York Times. 3/4 of U.S. adults are now overweight or obese, and that's up from 50% 30 years ago. So 50% is still too high, and now we're up at 3/4. And why is that? I think a lot of that has to do with processed foods. I was talking about Ozempic because I've been using the semaglutide for myself, and I know I'm probably going to get a lot of type 2 diabetics are going to be mad at me for taking their supplies. But that's America. I'm willing to pay for it. I also think insurance should probably pay for it. I do, even for weight loss, and they just need to crank out more of that. I'm a big fan of the semaglutides, the GLP-1 meds, and I believe that this family of drugs, which the whole idea is that it slows digestion down, and then in turn it kind of curbs your appetite, and it blocks some receptors and gets into the sciencey stuff that I can't keep up with. I really believe these are on the Mount Rushmore of medicinal breakthroughs. Put it up there with vaccines, anesthetics, anesthesias, and what's the plural? Anesthesias, and then I'll say blood thinners like aspirin. I would say this goes into that category of the vaccines, the anesthesias, analgesic, whatever you want to call it, and then blood thinners like aspirin. I think this goes on the Mount Rushmore. It is massive, and it's already extending lives. It cuts the most common causes of natural death, like you got heart disease and blood pressure, and obviously diabetes and stroke and all that kind of stuff. I'm a huge fan. The last visit I had with my cardiologist, and this is before I was on the weight loss drug, I had lost some weight, and he actually is the one that said, if you find yourself putting some weight back on, you should try this. And I said, that sounds great. So my cardiologist said it's something you could look at as a tool. I listened. And I think this is a really, really good thing for people. And I think it improves not only their physical state. My cardiologist told me, don't come back again. There's nothing better than your cardiologist saying he wants to forget your face. That is a wonderful thing to have happen. But the psychological side effects of these drugs are massive too. The self-image, the working on body dysmorphia, the confidence, reducing anxiety, all the things that come with losing weight. And we're starting to see the importance of mental health now as it relates to physical health as well. They all go hand in hand. And I don't hate getting out of the shower and seeing myself in the mirror as much. I still don't like it, but it makes me feel better. But the downside is this. We know that there are underlying health factors that are causing Americans to be overweight and obese. And if we are treating the symptoms with these breakthrough drugs, what does that do as far as those underlying factors? It's keeping the wolves at bay, but the wolves are still there. And the drugs bring about a little bit of complacency, and we start to forget that without the drugs, our lifestyles will kill us. Now, the drugs, they help curtail those cravings. Our drugs make it so that we can drive past that McDonald's or that we can order. In fact, the last time I went to McDonald's, I ordered a kid's meal. I'm 6'3" and a half, and I'm still 240 pounds, and I had a kid's meal. That was my lunch because I didn't need any more than that, and I knew I wasn't going to need any more than that. Small fry, and I think I had the nuggies. I didn't need any more. But I know that if I stop taking the drug and I don't have my little helper there with me, I know that if I just do a kid's meal, I'm going to be hungry for more.
Has the drug helped with sleep apnea?
So that is something else. My sleep apnea is still there, although last night I forgot to put I'm glad you asked that, Mark. And thank you for remembering I'm dealing with that mess. I did forget to put my mask on last night, which I rarely ever do. This is probably the fourth or fifth time I've done that in 2 years. And my wife said that I wasn't snoring. I didn't wake her up.
Really?
But she also had headphones in. So, but which she did initially before I got the CPAP because of my snoring.
Do you have the full Darth Vader?
I do not.
Okay.
And I hate my CPAP. I hate it. I hate everything about it. But I don't do the full mask. I do just the up my nose thing because I don't want to do the whole mask. The hose itself is so obnoxious. I can't stand it. But my cardiologist said the same thing. He says, "Is it helping with your sleep apnea?" And I did have sleep because I'm on it. I go back to my sleep therapist once a year for checkups, and they said, "No, you're still doing it." So I still have to wear that.
I think one issue with the Ozempic is that we have a natural distrust of shortcuts because it's a truism that nothing worthwhile is easy, right?
Yeah, I agree. But I also wonder, that being fat is big business.
Oh,
In fact, it's not even just like Weight Watchers. It is such big business to not only get you fat, but then to help you get unfat. And this drug, by the way, is the most effective thing. They're not going to put themselves out of business as long as these other businesses are still around. In fact, I got to tell you about that. And we'll dive into it here in just a few moments. Quick update here. Commentators debating. Thank you for the update on this, guys. Commentators debating Tyson struggling with his mouthpiece and whether it's a tick. They think he has ticks? Round 6 ended. Round 7, Paul is having... What is that?
He's kind of just playing defense right now.
Oh, okay. Paul having a hard time landing hits. Tyson having a hard time striking. Final round is underway. Paul is favored, I guess. All right. Well, I guess maybe by the time we get back, we're going to know who the winner of this bout is.
Probably, yeah.
All right. Looking forward to it. That is straight ahead.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
They asked Tyson why he kept biting his glove. He said, "I have a biting fixation." Okay. All right. They asked Jake Paul about fighting Mike. He said, "It's such an honor. He's a legend. He's the GOAT. I wouldn't be here without him. The toughest, baddest man on the planet. It was tough like I expected it to be. It was a unanimous decision." Are we giving the winner? Or are we going to do we want a spoiler alert or something on this? How do we want to approach this, guys? I want to make sure I'm not upsetting anybody.
I don't know. What do you think, Mark? Sorry. I caught him off guard.
Spoiler alert in 3, 2, 1. All right, unanimous decision that it went to Jake Paul.
Yeah. But one thing I did want to point out, I told Mark too, is when they announced him as the winner, most of the crowd was booing.
Good. I mean, who did they trot somebody else out there next? I mean, would Jake Paul be trying to fight Muhammad Ali if he hadn't just died? I mean, who's he going to get out there? Why doesn't he fight somebody for real?
Yeah.
58-year-old Mike Tyson. And this is only going to fuel the theory that the whole thing was fixed to start with. Remember, there was a theory on the internet earlier this week. We talked about it, that they were claiming that there was a no-lose clause in Paul's contract, which, of course, there can't be for a sanctioned fight. But that's not going to stop the internet from assuming the whole thing is fixed.
Sure. Yeah, I can see that.
They asked, Mike, are you officially done? It depends on the situation. Maybe I'll fight his brother.
His brother.
His brother. All right. Okay. I'll tell you what, I still wouldn't want to pick a fight with Mike Tyson if I saw him in the street. I would not do it. I was really hoping to have one of those grandpa video moments, like when you see somebody screwing with an old man on the street. I love those videos that pop up on Instagram. It'll be like, you mess with the wrong guy. It'll be some old farmer and some kids are picking on the farmer, and then the farmer just lays them out. Oh, I love that. Those are my favorites. I love that. Because people getting their own. Oh, great. That's fantastic. All right. Been talking about losing weight, and the reason that some people are fighting with their weight right now. In fact, most people are fighting with their weight right now. 3/4 of America are overweight or obese, based on BMI, which doctors admit is not a perfect measurement because it measures your weight and your height, and then it has a mathematical equation, and then it figures that all out. Doesn't take into account muscle mass, bone density, that kind of thing. But generally speaking, it gives them kind of an idea. It's a good starting point, a good guide. The thing about BMI that always threw me off too is if it's your height, and then it's like your height divided by your weight times pi, square root of the Pythagorean theorem, that kind of thing, right? So it's all based on the numbers that you put in, your height and your weight. And that's it. Not body fat, not density, not how well you're hydrated, just height and weight. Well, what if you're an amputee? I mean, you're still just as tall if you have one leg, but you're like 20% lighter. That's really going to throw the whole stat off. One of those things I always worried about. One way to get the doctors off your back. So with so many people, almost 75% of Americans overweight or obese, and many people turning to weight loss drugs, myself included, what are the underlying issues? Why is it that we're so much fatter now than we were 30 years ago? And 30 years ago, we were way fatter than we were 30 years prior to that. The rise in those who are overweight and obese is incredible. History's never seen anything like this. And that's because we have never had so much access to food in the past. And not only that, but fat is an incredible industry. Think about all the businesses that want you to get fat. Obviously, weight loss programs are out of business unless you've got people to market to, right? So that's one. But weight loss companies aren't at any risk. Ozempic will never put itself out of business. Or I should say Wegovy, because Ozempic is technically for type 2 diabetes. Wegovy, which is the same thing, semaglutide, which has been approved for weight loss, will never put itself out of business. Because if you go off of the product, which is a concern that I have, and I haven't crossed that bridge yet, but the concern is, you get to your target weight, do you come off the drug? And if you come off the drug, what happens to your weight? Does it go right back? And of course, most people, when they lose weight, they yo-yo. And the reason they yo-yo is because when you're not being disciplined on a diet, or in this case, when you've got the assistance of medication, those same cravings come back. You fall into those same routines. You're at the grocery store, and maybe you've got X amount of dollars, and you can see that you can get 2 apples for $6, or you can get a little meal at the deli counter for $6. Are you going to get 2 apples, or are you going to get something that's got some heft to it, something that gives you some satisfaction, feels like you ate a meal? Of course, you're going to go for the thing that makes you feel like you ate a meal, not the 2 apples. Have you seen the price of salads nowadays? Now, we talk about inflation. We talk about how expensive even fast food is nowadays, but even these healthier foods are far more expensive than buying the processed foods. And that is where RFK and I have something in common. It's the ultra-processed foods. The ultra-processed foods are a big issue. Chips, candy bars, sodas. It is hard for America's consumption of the ultra-processed foods. It's hard to lower the consumption of the ultra-processed foods when they are piled high on the grocery store shelves. And they're cheaper than the produce. They are addicting, so addicting that 73% of America's food supply is now made up of ultra-processed foods. 73% of the food at the grocery store is an ultra-processed food. Now, science may say that ultra-processed foods aren't inherently unhealthy, but we do know that the ultra-processed foods lead to cravings of more ultra-processed foods. In fact, 60% of what we eat every day is ultra-processed food. And if you are a kid, that number jumps up to 2/3 of what kids eat are ultra-processed foods. Chicken nuggies, delish. Pizza, high preservatives in your cheeses, sodas, all of these different things. And then we have holidays that celebrate them. When was the last time you had something homemade for Halloween? Nobody does candied apples anymore. That's because the witch down the road always puts razor blades in them. But nobody does this anymore. We go to the ultra-processed foods because they're convenient, they taste good, they make us feel happy, and then we want more of it.
It's also worth pointing out, if you don't mind my interrupting, that,
no, I don't. Go ahead.
The ingredients in a lot of the processed foods suppress your fullness so that you just want to keep eating them, like Doritos, which, who can't kill a whole bag of Doritos?
And wasn't it Lay's that said, bet you can't eat just one? That's because they actually stacked it against you.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. According to the director of Bloomberg Philanthropy's food policy program, Nina Prasad is her name, she says, they have just the right combination of sugar, salt, and fat, and you just can't stop eating them. There is money in getting you fat. There is money in fast food addicting you to fast food, ultra-processed. And then there's money in helping you take off the weight that the other companies were making you pay extra to put on in the first place.
They get you coming and going. Also, have you noticed that we're hearing and seeing more commercials for things we never did before, like liver cleanse tablets? Like the way around that would be not to drink yourself to death, but here's a pill instead.
Shut your mouth.
You shut your mouth.
You shut your mouth here. Don't you judge me.
I have as much at stake on this one as you do.
Don't you judge me. Everything in moderation. No, listen, all of it. We're all trying to clean up our lives, and I'm struggling. Every damn day, I'm struggling with this stuff. Every day. And right now, I've got a little bit of an assist. I just worry about when I don't. All right, if you looked up in the sky tonight, you might see the beavers staring back at you. We'll tell you why next.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
Chris Merrill from Mo Kelly, KFI AM 640. You can listen anytime on demand on the iHeartRadio app. And then I'll be back on Sunday afternoon as well. Join me for the normal program starting at 4 o'clock. Good to be with you there. In fact, I'm already taking a look at what we have coming up here on Sunday. Really good stuff. Not just weight loss. I mean, we've got weight loss stuff, right? But I also wanted to be able to talk a little bit about some of their food issues. Like KFC is suing for their original recipe. They're suing about it. Somebody's sneaky on that. And an update on the InfoWars issue, the InfoWars sale to The Onion. That is coming up this weekend. Join me at 4 o'clock on Sunday for that. Probably also get a little bit of feedback as we do our entertainment segment on Sunday afternoons. A little feedback as to what people are thinking about the Jake Paul-Mike Tyson fight. Most of the instant reactions I'm seeing online are, that was not great. Here's one, that just wasted 20 minutes of my life I'll never get back. Another one, well, at least I already had Netflix, so there's that. Didn't have to pay for it. David Spade said, I hate that it came out exactly the way we thought. Yeah, me too.
I was kind of thinking that too. I was like, man, if Netflix or streaming didn't exist, this easily would have been $120 pay-per-view.
Yeah.
I would have been pissed.
Riots in the streets.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, they would charge buku bucks for this because of the hype around it.
Sports guy I've worked with before says this is far more sad than I thought it would be for far different reasons. Guaranteed payday, everyone. In other words, they were just dancing around collecting their $20 or $40 million.
Yeah, and that kind of happened when Mayweather went up against McGregor.
Yeah,
because
I watched that. That was the last one I paid for. Yeah,
me too. But see, that one went I think 10 or 11 rounds. It was longer.
Yeah,
but the first, I would say, I remember 3 or 4 rounds. It was just a bunch of dancing.
We were getting ready to throw things at the TV. This is terrible.
So at least this one, it wasn't as much. It was more in the first round.
Yeah,
and then that's when kind of a few more blows were taken. But yeah.
Let me see. Here, somebody says if Tyson was in his prime, the match would have been over in 20 seconds or less. Tyson is a legend in boxing. He's also 58, and it showed. I think we both agreed on that, too. Watching Mike Tyson, Jake Paul is one of the saddest ways I've ever spent a Friday night. I need to sign up for a cooking class or a bowling league or something. Life is short.
This fight reminded me of the ones that heralded kind of the end of boxing being a thing that people stayed at home and watched together, was when it just turned out to be a couple of fat dudes scooting around and jabbing at each other, and it was boring.
Exactly. Butterball is the big draw, right?
Yeah.
That's Good Sport says we're all so dumb for watching this. So, yeah, a lot of that. The internet is brutal. This is the only time it's any good. Here we go. Breaking. Jake Paul has challenged Jimmy Carter to a boxing match. So we've got that coming up. We'll be looking forward to that. See that on pay-per-view. Can you imagine Carter watching this match and being, I survived for this? Come on.
I think if it was me, maybe you guys agree with me on this, I would chalk it up to a movie that you're like, well, let's see, this might be good. And you're like, but at least I didn't pay for it, and I was at home in my underwear, so who cares?
Yeah.
So you're describing Hulu right now, the entirety of Hulu.
Dang, shots fired.
Wow. That hurt.
But in general, I'm saying that's kind of what I would say that was. I mean, I get to watch it at work, but still.
Yeah, right? Yeah, you got paid for that. All right, well done. If you look up at the sky tonight, we have the last supermoon of the year. Did you know that the November supermoon is referred to as the Beaver Moon?
Excuse me.
What? And why is the moon so super?
First of all, the reason we have supermoons is because of the orbit of the moon around the Earth. So the orbit is not a perfect circle. It's actually more like an ellipse or an oval. That means the moon is not always the same distance from the Earth as it travels around the Earth. When it's closest, it's called perigee. That's about 360,000 kilometers away. When it's furthest...
What? Don't tell me kilometers. We're in America.
That's called apogee. It's about 400,000 kilometers away. So when you combine a full moon with perigee, that means you have a full moon that is at the closest point to the Earth. That's why the supermoons tend to look bigger and brighter. In fact, they tend to look about 14% bigger and about 30% brighter.
Oh, they look 14% bigger, just roughly? Is that right? Scientists.
All right, so the Beaver Moon. Yes, why is it called this? Well, scientists think it's because...
Oh, Mark, did you want to take a shot at this based on some of the videos in your basement? Or
how about we just leave me out of this?
Okay.
This is the time of year when beavers gather things and prepare their dams and things like that, gather things for the winter.
I thought it had to do with terrible, terrible mistake we made when we were staying at Grandma's house for the weekend.
Tread lightly.
And that's...
Really, tread lightly, okay? I don't know if you heard the news about this week, but
yeah, boy, did they make a mistake. Leaving me around.
Nobody's safe. So
yeah.
Why the full moon in November is called the Beaver Moon.
All right.
I also want to talk to you about a subject that might be a little bit difficult to talk about, but that's okay. That's what we do here.
Oh God, where's this going?
Let's talk about moon illusion. Okay,
what?
This actually has nothing to do with the supermoon, but you may notice if you ever look at the moon, it tends to look really big when it's low on the horizon. For instance, if it's maybe rising over the mountains or maybe rising over a cityscape like that, you've probably seen a scene similar to that. Now that's because your eyes are actually playing a trick on you. It's not actually bigger, and one way to prove this is that if you take your index finger...
Okay, he's getting boring. Why is this difficult to talk about? You know, it's much harder to listen to than it is to talk about, bub. There's no this is difficult to talk about. I thought he was going to sell us something important. It wasn't. All right. Foosh, you're the best, man. Just a tremendous partner to have throughout this entire process.
Absolute blast hanging out with you, man.
Love it. I love it to death. Matt, you are amazing, and thank you for being here. You have been so diligent behind the scenes tonight, in for Tawala, and Tawala, of course, is such a legend in his own right. And then Mark Ronner, buddy, just love when I get to play on the radio with you.
Glad we get to catch up on some quality time finally.
I dig it so much. I'm looking forward to the next time, guys. Have a great weekend. I'm back on Sunday, and we'll talk to you then. It's Chris Merrill, KFI AM 640, in from O'Kelly tonight. He's back on Monday. Live everywhere on your iHeartRadio app.
You've been listening to Later with Mo Kelly. You can always hear us live on KFI AM 640, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. every Monday through Friday, and anytime on demand on the iHeartRadio app.